Okay, y'all. Now, let's transition into our online classes. Because of the circumstances, we have so much material to cover that we'll still try to make the most out of it. And we're going to begin by talking now where we left off last class. We talked about Stanley Milgram. In the field of social psychology, there's a series of studies that were conducted by this guy that was, at least in my belief, the most famous of all psychological studies in the field of social psychology. They became popularized in the press. They influenced a lot of research that followed. They illustrated a very famous example for what blind obedience could be in. So, if you don't know what's the story behind those studies, Stanley Milgram created, along with an engineer that he collaborated with, made this huge machine, big machine. And in the machine, it was meant to look intimidating. So you as a participant would come in, see this big machine and be very much amazed by what it could do. You were being told as a participant that this machine would deliver electric shocks. In reality, it was just a big machine that was just, filled with lights and loud noises. But you as a participant didn't know that. You were coming in and Milgram will welcome you in and show you this big machine, which was revolutionary at the time. It was in the 60s. And you're being told this machine is going to be used for our studies that is about memory and retention of memories. So as you're sitting there, an elder man comes in, shakes your hand and tells you that he's going to be the co-participant in the study. And as both of you now start to kind of talk a little bit, the researcher comes in, tells one of you is going to be the learner, the other one is going to be the teacher. And it was rigged, so you would always end up being the teacher and the other one would be the learner. You see that this older man goes to the back of the room, is tied and is being given all this equipment that was supposed to deliver electric shocks. You're sitting on the other end in front of the machine. You're going to ask this man a series of questions, and if this man gets it wrong, you're going to have to deliver an electric shock to the man. The thing here is, the more wrong answers this man gives, the more and more you have to increase on the dose, on the voltage. Potentially by the last switch, you could kill the man. That was the setup of the study, of course. This was all planned for. The man in reality was not a participant in the study. The man in reality was a Confederate. He was an assistant pretending to be a participant in the study. But you don't know that. The machine was only giving out loud noises. It was not really delivering any electric shocks, but you don't know that. In the setup of the experiment, they just want to see how many people would go all the way to the last shock. So, Milgram loved to polish it. He knew how to sell the story that he was creating. I do not doubt that he was doing it for the sake of psychological research. But of course, he liked the attention. He did like the fame because he was super famous for those studies. So, when the studies were conducted, before the results were given, Milgram gathered the group of psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, talked to them about the setup of the experiment and asked them what percentage of participants would end up giving the last electric shock. He was very interested in their opinion. They agreed that it was going to be less than 3%. What was the reality of it? In the setup of this study, as they were increasing on the dosage, participants were sweating, participants were nervous. A lot of them complained, a lot of them said they would stop. But even if you're saying that you're going to stop, you have right next to you here the researcher telling you must continue. The experiment requires you to continue. You must go on. And if you as a participant that is delivering shocks to this man, because this man keeps getting the wrong answers, you ask the man, I don't want to do this. What if anything happens to this man? Who's going to be responsible? And the researcher is here right next to you saying, I'm going to be responsible. So you might know the results at this point. Almost 2/3 of participants went on to the last electric voltage. About 63% of the participants went all the way to the last shock. This was mesmerizing. This went off far what anyone expected, what Milgram himself expected. Milgram's family were of Jewish ancestry, and plenty of his family had actually passed away in the Holocaust. Yet Milgram wanted to understand the thought processes of the Nazis that were behind this. He was trying to show that people were not inherently evil, but some people just listen to orders and some people just follow orders. The same way that Germans might have been pushed to hurt or kill innocent people, in the setup of this experiment, the researcher with a white coat pressuring them in their face led a lot of participants of America doing the same thing. Since we're kids, we're continuously conditioned about the importance of obedience. Obedience. You're praised for being obedient, and you may be punished for being disobedient. Obedience is not a bad thing. Here the thing is blind obedience. If you blindly follow the orders of someone that may have ill intentions before you notice it, you may yourself may find yourself doing things that goes totally against your will. You see it from the outside and you say, I would never do that. But when you're in that position and you're being told what to do, you may not know. Blind obedience can be dangerous. It's important at this point then, from our duplex mind perspective, use that prefrontal cortex and analyze, should I do this? Is it for the best of the outcome on me or on other people? It sounds very obvious, yet it's mesmerizing when you see how easy can it be for someone to do horrific acts in the name of being obedient. Big lesson on behalf of Milgram. Even though he continued on his path in psychology, he did those studies, conducted those very famous studies at the beginning of his career. He did it at Yale University, an Ivy League school. But overall, he lost his job eventually. He didn't live up to the expectation as a researcher. He bounced around different universities, made a good career, but not a successful, polished, golden career as it was expected of him. And he passed away fairly young. This is the study that makes him mostly famous. Shouldn't be diminished. And of course, by current ethical standards, you cannot replicate a study like that, yet it's still talked about from a historical perspective. Keep that in mind. Very important lesson, Stanley Milgram. Good work.